Hi, this is Kasian, and it's time for our weekly conference call at VectorspaceAI. First, we'll start with what's happening around the world. Supply chains continue to be top of mind, with ripple effects including Apple releasing disappointing quarterly results based on a chip shortage. Positive ripple effects include new ways of managing shipping lanes, containers, and ports. Vaccine mandates are continuing to result in mass firings and layoffs in various countries. On the industry side, a trade show event is being hosted by Euroconsult and Innovitech and is dedicated to artificial intelligence applied to space. We may be on a panel. We'll be joining that event. For more information, you can visit AIXSpace.ca. That's AIXSpace.ca. CNBC is reporting Bezos, Blue Origin, unveils plans for a private space station, a business park, to be deployed later this decade. Jeff Bezos' space company, Blue Origin, unveiled its plan for a private space station called Orbital Reef. And related, Israeli biotech startup Imuni raised $215 million for drug discovery platform. Imuni, or ImmuneAI, founded in 2019, says it is on a mission to comprehensively map the immune system with single-cell biology and AI in order to fuel discoveries of new therapeutics and accelerate drug development. The company developed a drug actuary platform called AMICA, Annotated Multi-Omic Immune Cell Atlas, that enables high-resolution profiling of the immune system at industrial scale, generating biological insights that accelerate R&D and power novel discoveries. A running theme. And speaking of themes and events, Hertz. This is our next section, themes and events. Hertz orders 100,000 Teslas in deal reportedly worth $4.2 billion. And this places a $1 trillion market cap on Tesla stock, TSLA. And as we know, AI drives Teslas. For more themes and events, you can visit our Thematic Baskets channel, where we go through news and we have customer support people that are there to answer your questions related to generating thematic baskets of stocks and cryptos in real time related to global events, topics, and themes. Next, we'll move to our corp side. We have an ongoing legal review. That means we are the ones reviewing collaboration agreements and exchange agreements. So currently we have collaboration agreements in hand. We are receiving additional collaboration agreements, extended or more exhaustive collaboration agreements as requested, and we'll be reviewing those as well. On the exchanges side, which we'll talk more about in a bit, we've got agreements in hand that we are reviewing. And the reason we are reviewing them is to make sure they reach a level of regulatory compliance within the United States. On the HR side and facilities, we'll just wrap those into one. Everything is in process there. We are continuing to hire, and we are continuing to look for new office space. Under engineering, product, QA, and ops, we're going to combine this with customers, partners, and collaborators and handle this in one shot. Under Space Biosciences, we are continuing to collect data sources. And when you work in molecular biology related to scientific data engineering, data science, data interpretation, and visualization, the data sources you start with are just as important as the data sources you end with. And what we mean by that is very particular protein databases need to be used in addition to sequencing databases and databases that provide descriptions of genes, rich descriptions, long and short descriptions of genes and proteins that are particular or focused on this particular science that you're doing within molecular biology, the particular kind of biology you're operating on. When it comes to data sources at the end of the pipeline, after the data interpretation phase has begun with visualization, you then want data sources you can connect that will provide references or citations, outside links, summarizations that will show the researcher or the scientist why two things connect and how strong those connections are, helping to validate those connections. Ultimately, with the design of an experiment and the execution of an experiment, validating results that have been found in the literature, or new hypotheses, or even novel discoveries. So under the data sources side, we are organizing data sources that we're going to target toward Imperial College of London and their research and University College of London. And this will include what's already been described in the collaboration proposals in general, and the intellectual property from those that will result from these collaborations. That is what we are hammering out right now. Who gets assigned the IP, or intellectual property, or how we jointly commercialize it based on what's called a technology transfer operation within these universities and institutions. Each of them have commercialization and technology transfer departments that we'll be working with. And University College of London, the ball's in their court in terms of them sending a new agreement. So we're waiting for a new agreement, an addition. They've made some additions to the agreement, and that's something we have to review. So we're waiting for that. We also have additional scientific and academic institutions. And one of those, obviously, includes CERN, but we do have others in the pipeline, which include the University of Manchester and a few other universities that collaborate with CERN. We'll be announcing those soon. And we are still under Space Biosciences, and this would mean that the most immediate priority partners we have that we're working with would be Azure Space / SpaceX, their group, in addition to Maston Space Systems. We'll be talking with other launch companies, and not just to launch experiments, but also to open dialogues related to their establishing Space Biosciences units within their groups. Next, we've got the financial markets section under engineering, product, QA, and ops, rolled into customers, partners, and collaborators. And we're gearing up for a crypto offering. One pattern that many people may have noticed is that we've been talking about a crypto offering for some time. We've gone back and forth on it, and one of the reasons is waiting for the crypto markets to sectorize. We're waiting for groups of crypto to actually act on their own or move on their own. And things within the crypto markets have progressed up to that point. We also have made it a pattern to talk about consequential revenue. And this is not only going to come from institutions, it's going to come from retail. And we are on the verge right now of considering a subscription-based retail offering that's going to be in collaboration with Morningstar and an institution, one or more institutions that they want to work with or refer us to related to servicing our investment club of over 1,000 members now. We'll open up that investment club to the general public and advertise it as a way for retail investors to generate thematic baskets, filter them for alpha, for greater alpha, and trade them. We won't necessarily enable enable the execution of the trades. We'll rely on a third party for that. We'll get to the point in the crypto space where we will be able to offer one-click basket execution, which we've been talking about over a year. But that's how this becomes valuable, especially in the crypto space, is to eliminate the friction, eliminate the number of steps that it takes to execute a trade. In our case, it would be acquiring VXV for datasets and then enabling that data set to generate thematic baskets of cryptos related to a global theme, topic, or event in real time. And being able to charge based on subscriptions is something that we want to do on the retail side, and we are just about geared up for that. The final thing that we have to do is make sure that the performance of our crypto offerings, the crypto baskets themselves, are up to par. Crypto does trade differently than traditional equities, stocks, so that's something we have to consider, and that's what we're optimizing for. But once it's ready, we're going to roll it out as fast as possible, because as you know, we want revenue, consequential revenue, as fast as possible, because that's what matters. That's the big money. When it comes to Morningstar, we've got the pharmas by pharmas in the context of drug compounds data set. So pharmas by the rows, pharmas by the columns, pharmas by drug compound is what we're looking at, so that you can cluster pharmaceutical companies, publicly traded pharmaceutical companies, based on an FDA approval, or based on a failed clinical trial, or based on a protein. And then we are going to be opening up our dialogue once again with World Quant. We've talked about that before, but everything needs to happen in order here. And I think that we have not been able to communicate to people as well as we have wanted to, related to the importance of things happening in an organized way, in order, almost contiguously, one after the other. If they don't happen, if PRs don't happen, if rollouts, product rollouts don't happen in order, then we'll be missing part of our pipeline, part of our product pipeline, part of our customer pipeline, and we can kiss part of our PR pipeline goodbye. The very first thing people need to have confidence in is our ability to execute as a company. And there's no better way to show how well we can execute than by having scientific validation. And that would mean having the world's scientific and academic institutions publicly announce how we are advancing, assisting them in advancing their sciences, their research. So that's what we're going to do. And we will execute on that first. And secondarily, we will then begin to open dialogues with groups like World Quant, who have a history of financing space biosciences. And of course, groups like S&P Global, they are groups that will follow on based on the fact that our data sets are scientifically validated. And another way to validate your product offering is to operate in multiple industries, which is what we do. We've got the legal technology side, which we've operated on in the past and continue to operate on in terms of summarizing depositions. That is pipelined or queued as we work with other groups like CSSI and optimize summarization for them first. We'll then move on to optimizing for the legal technology side and summarizing depositions, but that is in process and a revenue generator. Next, we'll move to the corporate development, corporate strategy, business development, sales, and marketing. And everything is in process here with one addition. We spoke with a company called Bitvor, who we've talked to a while ago. There was a reorganization there at the company. They have a new CEO, and we have reopened a dialogue with them based on a revenue-sharing distribution agreement of our data sets. Things have advanced with language models over the last couple of years. Being the tip of the spear when it comes to AI and ML kind of puts you a little ahead of the curve and makes you wait for a few waves to break, but they are now breaking. And Bitvor, representing distribution pipelines, in addition to revenue distribution pipelines. Immediate revenue distribution pipelines is something that we're interested in pursuing. We left off with a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with Bit4, but that was before they were reorganized as a company. So we'll continue with that, and of course our aim would be revenue here. There's one other thing that Bit4 provides, and that is news based on a date, and that enables language models like ours and correlation matrix datasets based on language models to engage in proper backtesting. So you can always go back to a date, for example, January 20th, 2020, and understand what all the headlines were back then and which ones were directly connected to a stock symbol or a crypto symbol. So we'll be working with them on that level. Same as before. Next, we'll move on to the exchanges side. Oh, and Bit4 will be added as a added to our sales and marketing arm. Next, we'll move to exchanges, and everything is steady as she goes there. We have more than one exchange under review. And this is all we can say at this point. We can say that we will be hearing word back from our legal team next week on KuCoin. And so far, so good. It looks like a go. But it is not a go until our legal team signs off on it, making sure that we're above board with U.S. regulators. Next, we've got IR, PR, and Marcom. And as mentioned, we're going to be leading with our scientific collaborators. And this means that you can expect public announcements from everyone that we've talked with, and we have talked with more than just ICL and UCL. We are also going, and that connects to our scientific advisory board members. So we will be announcing new scientific advisory board members. We will also be announcing new products. And remember, every new data set is a new product announcement. And we have got hundreds of billions of data sets. Not all of them are extremely high value, but a lot of them are. When it comes to producing a new high-value data set and announcing it, it is much better for us to announce it jointly with one of our collaborators, partners, customers, or revenue-sharing distribution partners. We also have new customer announcements in the pipeline and new revenue-sharing distribution partners in the pipeline. Every new customer from groups like Morningstar represents a new PR. Every new customer from S&P Global, same deal. Every new exchange, so we've got PRs related to new exchanges. We also have PRs related to scheduled launch dates, and this relates to launching the HP Spaceborne Computer 2 and any additional instrumentation related to conducting experiments off-world. So we have a dynamic PR pipeline. And what I just described is not set in stone. If there was for example, if there was a scientific breakthrough based on one of our collaborators, this whole pipeline would shift. The strategy would shift as well, not just the timing. That's something to keep in mind as we continue to maximize the valuation for all stakeholders involved here, which means maximizing the valuation of this company. So this also means we'll be flexible and we'll continue to adapt to market conditions and adapt our PR pipeline to market conditions, as it should be. This also includes maximizing the value of our communication, maximizing the value of our messaging. And this is only done when we actively and strategically adapt our PR pipeline. PRs are a legal instrument that can be used in the court of law. More importantly, they are highly strategic. Each one is highly strategic, along with the timing. So we'll continue to internally adapt, modify, and reorganize our PR pipeline to capture maximum long-term value. not based on short-term penny plays or pennies based on the timing of an individual's pocketbook. Next, we've got questions from the trader base. Question 1. I would like to ask about the role Efficient Frontier and future similar organizations plays as market maker for the VXV token. Why pursue this route instead of relying on organic liquidity instead? Those are apples and oranges, two different things. Market making and organic liquidity, they go hand in hand, but they are different, meaning that a market maker's primary mandate comes from the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, and that results to maintaining an orderly market. They were called specialists on NYSE, and they were required to maintain an orderly market so the price did not spike, and so that people did not get hurt on the way up or on the way down. Maintaining an orderly market, as you can see, is valuable for any publicly traded vehicle. When you look at what we had to do when it came to market making in U.S. public markets, it was to maintain at least 5 active market makers on our order book. That was a requirement by FINRA. And we had to deal with those market makers, but we weren't able to communicate with them as much as we wanted to, based on disclosure and confidentiality and conflict of interest and all kinds of things, primarily insider trading. In crypto, you are not required. FINRA, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, does not require you to maintain market makers. However, following the spirit of U.S. SEC regulation and U.S. securities law, you will want to maintain market making on your trading vehicle. The reason for that, of course, is so that you can maintain an orderly market. It would also be wise for everyone to understand the history of market making, understand what a market making axe is. They don't have many of those today. And understand who fills the order book, how market makers fill dark pools, what they do, what their job requirements are, how they create or enable price discovery and equilibrium between the bid and the ask, how they work with inventory and take commissions and all that stuff, how they actually control the price of a trading vehicle sometimes, how they let blocks slip below the bid or above the ask without it affecting the order book. Question 2, what is the relationship between Vectorspace and SOLV International these days? We don't know of any relationship between Vectorspace and SOLV International. Question 3, where do you see VXV in the next 10 years? Well, we see it being used by machines to transact edge, alpha, signal, to speed up novel discoveries by 10x to 100x. We see billions of data sets, hundreds of billions of data sets, correlation matrix data sets being used and transacted, with their individual columns and feature vectors being used and transacted to minimize a loss function or to improve the overall accuracy or precision or ability to predict for any AI or ML system. And it's important to remember that the value of the data sets connect directly to the value of VXV. Question 4, what's being done to increase discovery/reach to everyday retail investors? So, a focus on consequential revenue, that's what's being done. That's how you focus on the big money. Thematic baskets of stocks and cryptos that move based on global events, topics, or themes in real time. That's what our data sets enable. If making money is attractive, then discovery will be increased. Question 5, has Vectorspace had contact with biotech incubators or VCs for additional funding? For example, Rejuveneron or Apollo Ventures or Juvenescence are active in the field of anti-aging therapies. We'll be introduced in time. We won't be the ones to introduce ourselves. First come public announcements related to our scientific collaborations in human longevity and space biosciences. Question 6. What can we expect from this Q4 in terms of PR and big money on the way? Well, you can expect public announcements and not from ourselves. And in terms of big money, keep an eye on the revenue. Question 7. Will subscription services pop up once thematic basket-driven investing becomes mainstream? Or will it predominantly be privatized datasets? I'm curious because maybe I'm mistaken. I think it will be hard for someone like myself with the shadow pocket to invest outside of purchasing tokens. We're going to be doing both. As described earlier, we will be releasing thematic baskets for the general public, and this will be based on subscriptions. Question 8. I assume buybacks are happening with personal ETH/BTC funds, and most of the future buybacks will be with funds from consequential revenue. We are not necessarily making consequential revenue at this time. Does this sound correct? This is correct. Question 9. Do you see some benefit that Vectorspace products can bring to the overall ESG narrative, environmental, social, and governance? And have you estimated which share Vectorspace can capture in this particular field? So this has been brought up a few times in the past. ESG is a big theme. It's such a big theme that it's separated into sub-themes or subcategories, which we can talk about later. What we see are context-controlled scores for ESG datasets. ESG datasets enabling the answer to questions like, how is this company's ESG score affected by X? Or how does this company's ESG score change in the context of X? In the context of rare earth elements, or in the context of helium, in the context of lithium-ion batteries, in the context of global supply chains. So we'll be definitely wading into those waters, and we'll keep the public updated on that. We're of course going to service any customer that comes from one of our distribution partners when it comes to any customization that they may want on the ESG side. So basically our first customer request on the ESG side will kick off our ESG data sources and organization for that kind of a data engineering pipeline to support ESG data sets in a given context. Multiple contexts. Question 10. Will there be any sort of disclosures stating how many buybacks have occurred and or how many VXV the company holds on its balance sheet? Maybe a quarterly report or something. Yes, we will have quarterly reporting. We've answered this before, and that's going to fall in line with our completing our domicile into the United States. We've moved into the United States. We've moved our corporation. We are a Delaware corporation with an EIN number. We're establishing accounts, bank accounts, and so forth. And we understand that quarterly reporting is something that we'll be doing as we operate by the spirit of U.S. SEC regulation and U.S. securities law. It's also important to note that novel discoveries, products, and consequential revenue make our valuation rise, not buybacks. Next, we've got a special questions section. We are going to award 10 VXV to top answers to the following questions. Question 1. Why is revenue more important than exchange listings for a publicly traded vehicle? Question 2. If the value of datasets goes up, does the value of VXV? Question 3. If the number of datasets goes up, do the value of datasets and VXV become more valuable? Question 4. If the revenue numbers go up, do the datasets and VXV become more valuable? So we are awarding 10 VXV to top answers to those following questions. Next, we'll move to the strategy section. And as a reminder, we have a few reminders here. Datasets enable discoveries, and for those in the financial markets, they make you money. The focus is on consequential revenue, and that's far more powerful and long-lasting than a buyback or additional exchange listings. The value of VXV connects to the value of our datasets, which serve as the fuel powering AI and ML systems, along with discoveries in every industry. So everyone's going to see massive price fluctuations as we spend the time that it takes to clear traders and speculators not connected to the company's upside and long-term vision. So what you see here is VXV being transferred from weak hands to strong hands. That expression existed before crypto existed. Datasets and their value will only increase as supply of VXV will only decrease, as more and more VXV will be required to maintain data provenance, data lineage, data governance, and especially data security for an ever-growing number of high-value datasets. The world's scientific institutions will set the tone for which cryptos will be a flight to quality in the long run and long game. In other words, what you're going to need is a lot of popcorn for what comes next. We are as comfortable as we can possibly be, and that should tell everyone everything they need to know. This concludes our weekly call. Feel free to join us next week. Until then, you can post questions and comments online. Thanks for joining.